أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والليل إذا يغشى والنهار إذا تجلى وما خلق الذكر والأنثى إن سعيكم لشتى فأما من أعطى واتقى وصدق بالحسنى فسنيسره لليسرى وأما من بخل واستغنى وكذب بالحسنى فسنيسره للعسرى وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى إن علينا للهدى وإن لنا الآخرة والأولى فأنذرتكم نارا تلظى لا يصلاها إلا الأشقى الذي كذب وتولى وسيجنبها الأتقى الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى وما لأحد عنده من نعمة تجزى إلا ابتغاء وجه ربه الأعلى ولسوف يرضى. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الفاتحة بعد الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to our 6th night of our English Muharram program. Thank you, Brother Anwar, as usual, for a great recitation. We will be moving on next to our lecture with Sheikh Abdurrahman Shidri, inshallah, and after our majlis by Brother Yunus Mekki. If you would like to sponsor a night, please feel free to come up to me and we can talk about details on how to sponsor, or email us at unitednetworkofislam@gmail.com. On behalf of tonight's sponsor, I ask that you all please recite Al-Fatiha on the soul of Saeed Mahmoud, Allah yarhamu. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you. Tonight's topic, the Sheikh will be speaking about hatred. So please help me welcome him with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على رسوله المصطفى وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I thank you once again for coming tonight in order to commemorate these sacred nights and these sacred days and to go along with this journey that we've started, the journey of exploring the virtues and vices in the soul of the human being. The journey that began with Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam explaining the battlefield that happens inside of the individual and divided that battle into the forces of good and forces of evil. And we've understood that this movement is constant. In every moment and in everything that the person does, there's always a struggle between two things: doing the right thing and doing the bad thing. On the individual level, whether you're thinking of what to eat during the day, you wake up in the morning and you're looking in your fridge, you find some maybe fruits, some healthy food, and you find a chocolate bar in there or something that would be unhealthy. Not that chocolate is unhealthy, they say it's healthy to a certain degree, but let's say you find something in there that is really not healthy, full of fats and other stuff. And the struggle begins, and it starts playing in your mind, and you start justifying why it's okay to eat this one time, or that it might not bother you too much. The struggle begins, and it happens in everything. As human beings, we can't escape the struggle that we have. And most of our suffering happens because we end up making wrong choices in our life. So you pick up that unhealthy snack or that thing in the morning, you eat it, you get that pleasure from it, but after that, usually you start feeling regretful, and there's effects, it's not just feeling regret. The regret comes because there's a negative effect that comes from what you did. So you eat something unhealthy, let's say full of sugars. Not long after you eat it, you start feeling lazy, you get headaches, you get tired, and suddenly you can't function throughout the day. You haven't given your body proper nutrients. So you begin regretting it. You regret it because the effects of the action were bad for you. So internally, the human being is always struggling in everything you're doing. We just don't pay attention to it. We're not thinking about ourselves, so we're not really understanding what really happens inside of us. We do things, and we're always struggling, we're always making decisions, but we don't come to become aware that this is the reality of human being. When you become aware and you become understanding that this is what a human is, then you start trying to think wiser and making more wise decisions when you're making decisions. Then you understand why you're struggling between this choice and that choice, because there's this internal battle going on. So knowing that helps you make the right decisions, helps you find a better life to live and a healthier life to live. So one of these virtues was love, and we spoke about that yesterday. We spoke about how love represents a very tender, enlightening, soft, and positive energy in the human being. And that if a person becomes filled with love and spreads this love to the outside, then this would contribute to a better community, a better family, and a better society. And this is one of the most difficult things. We have a lot of mental challenges. Someone does something wrong to you. How do you love that individual? Someone who commits a certain mistake in society, you start hating it. And if you go on social media, this begins to become expressed so easily. Look at the comments and what people write. A lot of negativity. And in reality, this doesn't help with anything. It just increases division, increases problems. You're in a dispute with someone hurt you, you think that you have to hurt them back. You think you have to react to them in this negative way because you get your right back and they deserve it. It's always difficult to step down or step on that thing that's stopping you from loving another person. You always want to fulfill your own ego and your own desire. But even when you get that, you don't end up really feeling any better. This is the thing. We get pleasure from hurting someone who hurt us, but this pleasure goes away and ends up eating us from inside. We end up becoming very negative individuals, very pessimistic in life, very having negative attitudes towards everything. And this is why hatred was listed as one of the vices, meaning the negative things. Hatred is the opposite of love, which means if you have hatred in your heart, what does it expel? It expels its opposite, love. So you cannot have love and hatred both in your heart at the same time. You either have this one or that one, but it's not black and white. There's degrees. So you might have 70% love in you and 30% hatred in you. Your objective is to eliminate that hatred, eliminate that negativity, and replace it with 100% love and positivity. This is your objective. So there are degrees. Sometimes you feel like you do express your love to someone, and you are a forgiving person, you are a loving person, but there's a point you reach where you lose that ability. And then that's where you know your limitation is. That's where you have to work on yourself. So when you have hatred in yourself, there's a number of different ways or different things that you hate. First of all, you could hate your life, right? A lot of people, and this is a common thing we hear, especially here in Dearborn, I hate my life. I hate my life. And it might seem like a innocent sentence coming out of nowhere. You're just bothered by something, but you just say, I hate my life. It's not really that innocent. What makes a person say they hate something as vast and as big as their life? A lot of the times this stems from the accumulation of negativity in that individual. This individual isn't able to see positive things in the things in his life. Anything that happens to that person is always interpreted in a bad way. Something doesn't go right throughout your day, oh, I have the worst luck. I hate my life. Nothing's working today. I hate my life. It's just that you always focus on this negativity. When you look outside, there's no negativity outside there that you can touch or feel, or it's not tangible. Negativity is only what's inside of the individual. It's how you see things. There's a hadith, a very famous hadith, where Imam Sadiq ﷺ was walking with his companions and they see a dead animal corpse. And the companion tells the Imam, this thing stinks. He didn't say that in English, but I mean, that's what he said. This thing stinks. It's so ugly, disgusting. The Imam says, look at how white its teeth are. It's a dead corpse, rotting, smells very bad. But you choose how to look at it. You choose to focus on the bad smell, the disgusting view of it, and whatever emotions, negative emotions it brings out in you. That stems from your inner perception of the world. The Imam, who doesn't have this illness and is trying to teach other people to get out of it, is telling the person, try to see the positivity in that thing. And sometimes you tell people to do that, or you try to encourage them to do that, and they refuse to do that. There's nothing positive in this. There's nothing good that's coming out of it. You can always find something good out of everything that's happening around the world. It's impossible not to find anything good in even the most evil things. That doesn't mean you ignore evil. It doesn't mean you ignore bad things. You will see a bad behavior, you will dislike the behavior, but you have to do that out of love, not out of hatred. The mentality you have to train yourself is that if I dislike something, I have to dislike it in a positive way, not in a negative way. And a lot of people who begin to work on themselves and they begin becoming, let's say, more religious or better individuals, they become very negative people. You find a person becoming more religious, you're like, man, I think that guy was doing better off before he was religious. Now he became religious. Now he's like this irritating guy. I can't stand this guy. Why? Because the way he disliked who he was, the way he detested and moved away from what he thought was wrong or began describing as wrong, the way he did it was wrong. He started looking at these things in a very negative way, in a negative way. His attitude was very negative. So looking at, someone who doesn't pray, well, prayer is good for the individual. He starts looking at, if prayer is good, I want to go into heaven, and leaving prayer is haram, then I'm going to start doing good to go to heaven, and whoever doesn't pray is a bad individual. And he starts building this negative perception and hating himself or hating what he used to do before becoming a person who is praying. Then he becomes an individual who is religious, starts praying, and starts criticizing everybody who doesn't pray. Although he was someone who wasn't praying too long ago. He accepts for himself to change and become a better person, but he has this negative attitude towards other people. You should never look at something in that negative perception, even your own change, your own problems. When you try to change them, you say to yourself, I'm changing them because I want to become a better person and therefore help other people become better as well. If I stop becoming angry, or if I stop lying, if I stop backbiting, I shouldn't turn around and get stuck with another voice in my heart where I start becoming judgmental. A lot of people improve a little bit in their lives, and they become more successful, and they start looking at everybody else who's lower than them, who used to be in their position, as failures in their lives, forgetting that he was a failure one time according to his definition. If the person who helped him was looking at him in that negative way, he was never able to move up and improve himself. So when you elevate yourself, when you become a better person, that has to happen with a positive attitude. This is why the Imam ﷺ describes faith, Iman, as 10 levels. And he describes it as a ladder. He says, if you climb to the next level of faith, and faith is a very general concept. Faith meaning you become a very religious in the sense of becoming more internally stable and internally healthy. Faith has many different levels. It doesn't equal praying, fasting, and that's what faith is. No, faith is a level. The more you advance, the more content of an individual you become, the more healthy-hearted, the more stable-minded you become. This is where your faith is increasing. So the Imam tells an individual that if you go to the second level on this stairs of faith, don't put your load and your understanding and your view of life on the person under you. You start gaining a better understanding of existence. You start figuring out that I'm a human being. I came into this world through contemplation. You start figuring out that I'm going to die one day. There might be life after death. I got to do good. I got to leave evil. And you start gaining an awareness that other people who are not contemplating and they're busy with their normal lives don't end up paying attention to. So you start coming and you start judging people who don't think the way you think. You stop, let's say, people that used to go partying. Suddenly you figure out partying is not the good thing for you. So you stop going. Then what you do is, anybody who goes partying, you start criticizing them and judging them in a negative way, as if they're very evil and bad individuals, instead of trying to lift them up and improve their lives. The more you judge, the more you push, the more you hurt other people, and the more negative you become. It's true that you realize that partying is bad for you, but it doesn't mean that that other person has that awareness too. So you can't criticize them and judge them in a negative way. You'll destroy them. And this is what the Imam says. He says, if you're on the second level, don't put your understanding of life in the world on other people who are lower than you, and you will break them, he tells them. You break him. And if you break him, you make him not want to become a better person anymore. You destroy his life, you destroy his motivation, and you make him repelled from this. You become repulsive. Someone who you keep telling, your children or your friends, you gotta pray, you gotta pray, you gotta pray, you're gonna go to hell, you put this pressure on them. Oh, the child doesn't understand why he has to pray. someone who's not really an aware individual. People differ in their intellectual capacity. Some people are very um, uh, intelligent in the sense that they're able to grasp the world in a deeper way, in a more philosophical way. This is a very different person from someone who doesn't have that. So you can't use this to judge that. This is something we have to understand. Don't put burdens on other people who are lower than you. So what does the Imam say? The Imam says, don't put that pressure on him. You'll end up breaking him. And if you break him, you're responsible for fixing and amending him. There's a responsibility. Don't think that if you push something on an individual, even in relationships, for example, you see that your partner is having some internal difficulties and that they're trying to improve with, it's affecting the relationship. So what do? You expect them immediately, you don't have that problem. Let's say like anger issues that we spoke about the other day. You know, you speak to that individual in the relationship and they always end up reacting in an angry way. But you're a very calm person. So whenever they get angry, you start yelling at them or you start criticizing them or, saying stuff that are very mean, because you're able to control your anger and they're not able to control their anger. Well, that means that you're at a higher level than them in terms of controlling anger. By criticizing them constantly, by making them feel bad for being angry the whole time, by making them feel like they're less than you because they have a problem that you don't have, what are you doing to that individual? You're breaking them. You're destroying them. If they had a chance to get rid of their problem, now they don't have it anymore because of all the negativity you're giving and directing towards them. So what does the Imam say? He says, if you break him, you're responsible for fixing and amending him. There's a responsibility there. Man kasara mu'minan fa'alayhi jabru. That's what he said. And he says, so instead of doing that, he's showing the responsibility here. You shouldn't put more burden than he can handle. That's first of all. If you do, and you break that individual, you're responsible to fix them. Okay, so what is the right thing to do from the beginning? He says that احمله إليك برفق. Take him up to your level with love and kindness and tenderness. This person in your life who has this problem, you don't have that problem. Then try to help them get rid of that with kindness, with compassion, with love, with easiness, with tenderness. You have to exercise patience with that individual. Try to understand, why are they reacting this way? Is it an internal issue? Is there something in their life that's bothering them? Maybe they don't know how to be patient when they're faced with problems in their life. Sometimes you talk to an individual, you change their perception just by telling them something. And then suddenly they're able to handle problems in life. That's a much better attitude than when I come and criticize that individual with hatred and negativity, and all I do is I destroy that person's life and not allow them to grow or become motivated to do anything. So hatred should be detested in our hearts. We shouldn't like to have it inside of us. We should try to remove it. And if we hate something, we hate an action because we don't want to have that as being part of our personality and part of our society as well. So always deal with things in a loving way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the Prophet as someone who, if he had a very negative attitude towards people, then they would have ran away from around you. Nobody wants to be around someone who's negative. And this is the messenger of God. Even though he's a messenger, even though he might be speaking truth, still, if you don't speak it in the right way and you don't express it in a loving way, people are naturally going to be moved away from it. They're not going to be attracted to it. So this is what we have to have in our life. Keep love. The opposite is hatred. Try to repel hatred from your heart. If you're dealing with negativity in your life, try to remove negativity through positivity. The best way to get rid of darkness that's in a room, how do you get rid of darkness? You turn the light on. Darkness goes away. And if you have darkness in your heart, you have negativity, the best way to get rid of it, the most healthy way, is put light in your heart. Put positivity, negativity goes away. And this is how we should be. If we want to enlighten ourselves, then let's put light in our hearts. And that will remove the darkness automatically. I'll end with that note. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us love in our hearts and mercy in our hearts, and in order for us to be able to express this and spread it around to our close ones, friends, families, and community, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so for those who didn't hear the question, and I hope I'm going to relate it correctly here. And if I do it incorrectly, then please inform me. So how do we remove that darkness in our hearts? Sometimes you just can't see the positivity. Sometimes you're overfilled with negativity. Is that what you're asking about? So how do we do that in the first place? Sometimes people feel that they're not able to do that in the first place. Well, if you reach a point where you're completely unable to put any positivity in you, then I think that's a special case that needs to be treated exceptionally. But in general, human beings work with habit. And again, the same rule that applied on the individual not to put extra burden on his friend and break him, he shouldn't put extra burden on himself as either. So if you want to become someone who's better, then you shouldn't put goals that are unrealistic in your life. You know, just like working out, you get excited about something, or you want to make a change in your life, immediately you want to change to the exact opposite. And we notice that doesn't work. It has to be gradual. So even on yourself, if you have negativity that's overtaking you and you want to become a more positive person, then what you should try to do is try to set small goals for yourself. Like today, I'm going to say 5 nice things to the first 5 people I see outside. Today, I'm going to try to smile for the first 3 hours of the day. Don't say the whole day. That might be difficult if you're not someone who's used to smiling or saying good things. Try to be positive. Today, I'm trying to, going to make one person happy. Today, I'm going to, let's say, do something nice for my mom or dad or my siblings or my wife or whatnot. So you put small goals. You perform them. Then you start getting used to doing things. And slowly, it becomes a habit. At first, it's a challenge. You overcome that challenge. You improve yourself to that degree. Then once that becomes normalized, you start wanting to move towards something more. So instead of, let's say, 3 hours, you say, I'm going to be good the whole day, and then the whole week, and then the whole month, and so on and so forth. So it always has to happen through gradual development, setting realistic goals and short-term goals before, trying to change long-term. Because if you put a long-term goal, unrealistic goal, you don't achieve it, that ends up making you lose more motivation, makes you think that you can never change. A lot of people end up saying, you know what, I can never become better. It's probably because, the way they were trying to change was incorrect, not because they can't change. Yeah. Does that touch on what you were asked? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى ابنك الحسين المظلوم الشهيد. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة، ويا باب نجاة هذه الأمة، يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. جار الزمان وجارت الأيام، يوم الطفوف وضجت الأقوام، للحرب يدعون ابن بنت نبيهم، والظلم في أعطافهم إسهام، لهفي على الأطهار يبهر نورهم، والعام تمضي بعده الأعوام، لكم السلام الصدق في أعماقنا، لكم السلام الصدق من أعماقنا، حبا لكم ما حبرت أقلام. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه، فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. Among the faithful are men who fulfill what they have pledged to Allah. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam would recite this blessed verse at his companions' martyrdom as many breathed their last between his hands. These were companions who, in the Imam's words, were unmatched in their companionship. These were companions who, when the Imam turned off the candles on the eve of the 10th of Muharram and were given the option to run and rescue their lives, they swore that even if the lights of the candles were shut off, that the light of Hussein's love in their hearts would never ignite. This love of Hussein in their hearts would never die. Sa'id ibn Abdullah, one of the Imam's companions, spoke with a firm heart. He told the Imam, by Allah, if I knew that I were to be killed, if I knew that I would be killed for your sake, then brought back, then burned alive, and that were to happen to me 70 times, I would never leave you. ما فارقتك أبدا ما تركتك يا حسين. The sun rose on the day of Ashura, and an elderly man in his 90s stood tall like a lion. Habib ibn Mudahir al-Asadi, this chief of the Shia in Kufa, who has fallen in love with the Ahlul Bayt, and who had fallen in love with them for his entire life. He was about to breathe his last in their arms. He would rush into the battlefield with a band holding up his eyebrows from his old age. One by one, he annihilated his enemy. He then returned to the Imam weeping. Yes, my respected brothers and sisters, the majalis of Imam al-Hussein took place even in the battlefield of his martyrdom. Habib wept for the Imam's loneliness and for the treasure unseen in the people's eyes, the treasure of divine guardianship, the treasure of wilayah. Once again, Habib rode into the masses of the soldiers. He rode into them calling out, أنا حبيب وأبي مظاهر. أنا حبيب وأبي مظاهر. فارس هيجاء وليث قسور. أنا حبيب وأبي مظاهر. فارس هيجاء وليث قسور. وأنتم ذر عدة وأكثر، ونحن منكم في الحروب أصبر. وأنتم ذر عدة وأكثر، ونحن منكم في الحروب أصبر. Each of the supporters of Imam al-Hussein rode with the same spirit. Their spirit shook the earth as the poet describes their roar. Against human intellect and willpower. Against human intellect and willpower. A revolution our blood will power. Against human intellect and willpower, a revolution our blood will power, and the legacy of Hussein will power. A revolution our blood will power, and the legacy of Hussein will power. From Abis to John to Habib al-Mudahir. From Abis to John to Habib al-Mudahir. Until the moment came when Habib and all of the other companions of Imam al-Hussein would fulfill the last wish of their comrade, Muslim ibn Awsaja. Muslim ibn Awsaja, one of the comrades, as he breathed his last, he pointed to the companions, especially Habib ibn Mudahir, telling them, أوصيك بهذا الغريب. My will to you is that I enjoin you in this lonely man. Yes, my brothers and sisters, their hearts had fluttered to the loftiest ranks, to paradise, to the afterlife with the Ahlul Bayt, as Imam al-Hussein would call out, ألا هل من ناصر ينصرنا. Is there anyone to aid us? Is there anyone to help us? Is there anyone to hear our call? My brothers and sisters, our spirits replied in the wombs of our mothers. From that day and forever, لبيك يا حسين. Together, لبيك يا حسين. Raise your hands with me. لبيك يا حسين. لبيك يا حسين. لبيك يا حسين. At your call, at your service, O حسين. حب حسين بالمرضى حسينا. حب حسين بالمرضى حسينا. وسرى بعروقنا ويا الدم حسينا. أبد والله يا زهراء ما ننسى حسينا. أبد والله يا زهراء ما ننسى حسينا. نعيش نموت ويا ابن الزكية. Forever by God, O Zahra, we will never forget Hussein. Through these gatherings, through these sacraments, and in always fulfilling our responsibilities, do we hope to be on the path of those who answered Hussein's call, to be amongst those who answered his call. Let us join these elites of Allah. أبد والله يا زهراء ما ننسى حسينا. 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 إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. To Allah we belong and to Him we shall return. Let us pray together for the hastening of the reappearance of Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. For the hastening of the reappearance of the Imam of our time, Imam Muhammad al-Mahdi, for the protection of all of our maraja and scholars, and for all of the followers, the lovers, the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt, their living and their deceased, kindly recite Surah Al-Fatiha وذي الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Sent Brother Yunus. That concludes the program for tonight. Thank you all for coming. Please be sure to join us again tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. sharp, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.